You could travel with the same person for 15 years and still not kill each other. Ooh, careful.
Nothing, agreeing. Okay, good job.
Here's the thing, like we never really addressed it on our blog. This is actually the first time. That we are addressing it like head on. It's weird a little bit because we've been together for 15 years, but we never really addressed it. I see this interview alone as like a very liberating moment for us. I really feel like I'm breaking free. And then Ariana Grande sings Break Free and
This is Community Featuring. My name is Vic and welcome to the show. So, how's everybody doing during this month of Pride? We at the Standard Candy is having so much fun because we get to learn and we get to practice and really develop the global mindset that we keep talking about so much on our channel. And that would mean, having an awareness and understanding of other cultures or being more open to diversity and thinking beyond just ourselves, just our values, just our nation. And what could be a better way to do just so than to talk and really get to know real people from different countries. Like on our show today, we have a Filipino couple. They're Vince and Yosh, and they're travel TikTokers going by the name The Poor Traveler. So let's go say hi and welcome them to the show. Hi guys.
Hi.
Hello. Hi. How you doing?
Yeah, we're great and thank you for having us.
All right.
Here.
Of course, thank you for coming and welcome to Thailand.
Thank you.
I suppose like being you and knowing your content, this cannot be your first time to Thailand, am I right?
No, we've been here at least many times.
Okay.
A perfect example is we've been in Thailand in 1 year. This year only twice already.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. That's good news. I'm so happy that you guys keep coming back. So what keeps you coming back to Thailand mostly?
Yeah.
Food.
Good answer and very safe
Yes.
answer because it's true to a lot of people too. Yeah, like food destination, right?
It is. Like
Yeah.
out of all the different countries that we visited, we really believe that Thailand has the best cuisine.
Wow,
Yeah.
so that's how you say that. Yeah. Okay, I kind of agree because I
You have
enjoy
to
eating,
agree.
and that's true for me too. Thai food is still one of my favorite foods. Yeah, I can keep eating it like every day. Okay. All right. So the obvious question: the poor traveler. Why poor?
It's a long story. We established the blog in 2010, but this story happened in 2009. So the year before we established the blog. And on our first trip together, we visited this. We booked a resort. It's a little bit secluded. So and the resort asked us like to get there. We had to go to this isolated wharf. There was no one else, so we had a tricycle similar to a tuk-tuk. Drop us off at the wharf at the port, and we stay there waiting for the resort staff to pick us up because that's what they promised.
Okay.
And long story short, they forgot about us.
They didn't come. You
Yeah.
got stranded,
Yes, for 2 hours, more than 2 hours.
and they just forgot.
Yes, they
Yes.
forgot. And what happened was we decided to just walk back to the highway and probably look for another resort. And that incident, remember, this is our first trip together.
Oh God.
And basically, we blew our budget because we had to book another resort.
Wow.
And we said that maybe we should document our experiences, our misadventures, so that other people won't make the same mistakes. That we
Also,
did.
poor traveler doesn't mean like no money to spend, but like us, so unfortunate and
Yes.
unlucky.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh God. Yeah. Oh, poor guys. I mean, and your first trip together too, and
Yes.
that must be like super memorable, and
Yes, super memorable because I'm the one who booked the resort.
That's true.
Yes.
and did you hear back from them like the resort that forgot you guys and any compensation at all or what?
None.
None?
Yeah.
No,
even-
they refunded.
they
refunded.
refunded.
Okay,
but,
that's the least they can do, I
yes.
guess.
Um,
Yeah.
And also, I remember before even going to the wharf, I even texted them and called them that we'll be by this wharf at around this time.
Okay.
Okay, no problem. We'll book the boat. And
Yeah.
then 2 hours later, nothing or
God.
no one showed up for us.
Wow.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's what happens in the real trip. Everybody,
Yes.
I'm sure, has the similar experience, but maybe not exactly like this. But some sort of like misfortune happen all the time during the trip or
Yes, that's true.
your journey, right?
And even for us, like it kept on happening. On our succeeding trips, there were always like we call it boo-boos.
Yeah.
It would always rain whenever we would travel, and there was a reason behind it. Maybe we could reveal later. But even up to now, it's been a long time since something that big happened to us.
Yeah.
But yesterday,
Oh.
so we were at the Suvarnabhumi Airport.
Uh-oh.
And we were going to our hotel at Novotel Bangkok on Siam
Siam
Square.
Okay.
And Vince, again, tried to book a Grab car going there to the hotel. And basically, I don't know what happened, but I watched him book it and he entered the right hotel.
Yeah.
But we were taken to Novotel in Rangsit Park,
Yes.
which is like outside Bangkok.
Yeah, it is so far away from. Yeah. Oh God.
And what happened was I booked it. I searched for Grab and then Novotel Bangkok on Siam Square.
Yeah.
It showed up first on the list in Grab.
Uh-huh.
I pinned it and then we both slept in the car. And then apparently, and then the driver, we're here. Then
Yeah.
we're not on. We're not on.
Where?
Yeah.
Where are we?
Yeah.
Oh,
it wasn't our
God.
first time here at Siam Square. Siam Square. So it was like, this cannot be it.
Yes.
Like I was just here last year. It couldn't have changed this much
Okay.
since the last time we were here. But yeah, so we had to book another Grab going to the right hotel.
Yes.
Oh,
So things like
man.
that, even to what we consider ourselves pretty much seasoned after like 14 years of traveling,
Yeah.
but still happens to the best of us. So the goal of the blog is really to help other less experienced travelers
Yeah.
as we were 10 years ago, 11 years ago,
Yeah.
to just avoid or lessen the mistakes that we make because mistakes cost money.
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to do with our blog.
Of course.
Yes.
And you guys are actually known for like planning a meticulous, detailed itinerary or traveling plan. And still, this thing could keep happening to you guys. So there's no telling that even if we are so careful about things, and so misfortune can still happen. But I agree with you that we can minimize all the mistakes.
Yes.
Yes.
That would cost money. Yeah. Okay. So I think that's the one of the main ideas of building this blog or this channel,
Yes.
just to help other travelers to be wise or wiser or more careful about their trips, right?
Yes, that's a part of it. It's a big part of it.
Okay. Right. What are the reasons for building this blog? Is it a personal reason because you guys want to just like keep the diary of your trips or what?
Yes, initially we wanted to document our misadventures, but then when we started publishing, we got a lot of questions. So we decided to we should also publish some of our tips, and maybe that could help other people. So that's how.
Okay. What would we say is make you guys different from other guys who maybe do the same thing, like documenting their trip and talking about the journeys and stuff?
For us, we have a background in digital marketing. So Yosh is a social media person, and I'm an SEO person.
Ooh. That is a good combination.
Yes, that's
yeah.
true.
Content and SEO.
Yes.
Yeah, they go together.
Yes. So what we did is, what if when we decided that we wanted to create the blog, we want not just to share our personal opinions or experience, but also provide much information because back then social media and SEO really do well naturally and organically, and we tried to seize that moment.
Yeah.
so that we could rank and somehow be more searchable or reach more audience.
Right.
And beyond the technicals of it, because remember this is around 2010, and at the time there weren't that many travel blogs.
Yes.
There weren't that many social media accounts. Social media wasn't even a term back then. They call it online communities.
Yeah.
And at the time, most of the travel blogs that were available were written by Western travelers. And we love them. We learn from them, but then they didn't really reflect most of our experiences. For example, visa application is something that they didn't have to worry about, but we always worry. I'm not sure about Thai people, but for Filipinos, it's very hard to get visas, whether it's Schengen visa, US visa, and because the first wave of travel bloggers were coming from the Western world, and they didn't have these struggles, they couldn't write about it. They were coming from a very privileged place. And so we wanted to offer that perspective that if we're going to create a travel blog, we would reflect, we would be coming from a place that would be relatable to Filipinos, to Thai people, to Indonesians even, that we would document how hard it would be to get a visa, what we need to produce to be able to get approved, and even the budget, maybe a month's worth of salary will only last perhaps a week in Switzerland or in Iceland, right?
Yeah.
So it's a very different experience, and that's the perspective that we want to offer.
Yeah, just to target more exclusively to like Asian
Yes.
people.
Yes.
Yeah, because we are coming from the same place and we kind of have the same problem. What you mentioned before about visa, we kind of understand because we have the same problem too. Yeah, but maybe not exactly the same, but we feel you guys.
Yes.
Right. So what else that you see could be the problem for Asian travelers to anywhere in the world at all?
Especially, this is a pretty loaded question because especially after the pandemic, I was really, really afraid to travel outside Asia because there was this stigma before, like because of COVID. And even before COVID, we would always face certain microaggressions. Like, for example, there was in one of our trips, I'm not gonna mention the name of the country, but we were in this city and we were just walking, and there was a group of guys who would follow us, and they would say like ching chong, things like that. So we would experience things like that, and I'm a very sensitive person, so I would really take it badly. Like I wouldn't go out for like half a day or a day and things like that. But so and another thing is whenever the good part of being Asian is it's always fun to meet other Southeast Asian traveler. Whenever, for example, we were just in Kosovo. Last year, and there was a Malaysian girl, and we're like, "You're Southeast Asian, we're gonna be friends." So that's
it's so easy to like team up, like Team Asia represent.
And our guide was like, "You knew each other? No, we didn't." And you're friends now? Yes. That's what Southeast Asians do. Like when we spot another ASEAN person, like we bond immediately.
Yeah, we super friendly to each other, right? Yeah, we kind of feel safe, right?
Yes.
We were getting the same vibe out of each other. But I have not experienced the exact same thing as you did, but I totally understand because even for someone who's not necessarily sensitive to this kind of thing, but that would definitely ruin the mood because we're here to have fun. We want to feel better like after our like stressful week of work, and then this is what we had like jerks, and
but it's more of an exception. I mean, like it doesn't happen all the time, thankfully. The reason it stands out in our memories is because it's not always like that. Like we've been traveling for 14 years, and I can count on one hand the number of times that it happened. So at the end of the day, it's still, but like don't be afraid to travel, even if you feel disheartened sometimes, because there's more good out there than bad.
So when Yosh might get like feel like emotionally attacked by this kind of thing, what do you do? Did you feel the same way too, or you kind of comfort him and saying it's okay or what?
At first, for a split second, I get offended,
Okay.
but after that, I just think that these things happen, especially if you travel. So it's not always rainbows and butterflies.
Yeah.
When we travel, we have much more of a good experience, especially from the locals, and also
see.
if we meet our
Yeah.
fellow Southeast Asian.
Yeah. So don't get
countries.
hung up on
Yeah.
those bad things, but
Yeah.
focus more on like better part
Yes.
of the trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it pays to, like, after some time, you get to grow thicker skin. And it's going to help you a lot
Yeah.
when you travel.
I think the same way exactly. Like, okay, for someone who has never been out of the country, maybe you have never experienced this kind of discrimination or like bad behaviors. But if you decide to get out there, right, this definitely could happen, and at least you are aware of this kind of people existing in the world. Just learn how to keep yourself safe, I think.
Yes,
Yes.
that's true. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, well, you mentioned Kosovo, you mentioned like places. How many countries altogether have you been to? Or did
Around
you lose
60
count?
Around
together,
60.
Just around
60.
Yes.
That's a lot. Do you guys set goal for like, we have to be like everywhere?
We have a goal of completing the countries.
Okay.
All the
All-
countries.
So at
all
least
the
all the
countries in the world,
countries,
yes.
which is how many?
180
80
plus.
Whoa.
Because it depends on like who you ask. 'Cause
Okay.
Sometimes it would be like it's do you only consider those that are members of the United Nations?
I see.
Or things like that. It's a
So
very
like technically
complicated-
maybe these guys are together. Okay, we don't count as like two countries, but maybe
Yes.
one.
Yeah.
Okay. So like 1/3 at this point.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
It's pretty good.
yes, but we also have other goals. Aside from that, for example, we intend to visit all the provinces in the Philippines. We've also been to like 60 of them. So we have around 20 more provinces to visit. And we also plan to visit all the prefectures in Japan, because Japan is also one of our favorite
Favorite
countries.
countries.
And we have been to 36 out of 44 prefectures.
Okay. So maybe it's not like everywhere, but
Yeah.
your favorite place very thoroughly. Oh, okay.
Yes. And we don't have like a tight deadline. Like, we have to do this before we turn 40. We don't have that. Like, if it takes a lifetime, then it's going to take a lifetime.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, I'm the kind of person who I'm not sure if I can call myself a traveler, but I do travel sometimes. And it used to be like, oh, adventurous. We have to go like to as many places as we can, right? After a certain point, you kind of feel like, okay, now I know that this is my favorite place, and I keep going back all the time to this certain place. It doesn't need to be like everywhere anymore. So you guys have any place like that even though you're still traveling all over the place, all over the world, but some places that you keep going back for some reason?
Yeah.
Japan.
Japan.
Yes.
Right.
We've been to Japan for how many times?
19.
19 times.
19 times.
Yes.
Okay. So, different each time, or always the same spot, or?
Different each time.
Okay.
For example, when we go to Osaka, we try to go to new attractions, or we try to discover what's the new food here. Yeah, things
Oh,
like that.
you're at the right place. Like Osaka and food is like,
Yeah.
big thing, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And even I always say this, like, we Filipinos, we're very lucky. And actually, Southeast Asians in general, we are very lucky because we live in a region that is so rich in natural attraction, so rich in culture, so rich in cuisine, that, I can think of Thailand. We've been many times because there's so much to experience. The Philippines, we live there, and yet we haven't seen like much of it. We've
Yeah.
been everywhere, not everywhere, but we've been to a lot of places in the Philippines, and yet it still doesn't feel full. You know what I mean?
Like you have covered your
Yes.
own country.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I could say the same for Vietnam and Indonesia, for example. God, there's like, how many islands are there in Indonesia?
Yeah.
And that's probably double than what we have in the Philippines. So
Right.
I think we're very lucky. We Southeast Asians, we live in a region that is just so blessed with a lot,
Yeah.
travel-wise.
Right. So when people see the name you go by, the poor traveler, I guess a lot of them might think poor equals cheap, right? So be very conscious with your budget. And I guess they're not wrong because a lot of time you guys are talking about how to make the most out of your budget.
Yeah.
So, but I guess cheapest is not always the cleverest way of traveling. You agree?
Yes, because we believe that the best way to travel is not the cheapest way. So we believe that the value for money. So value for money. If, for example, here in Bangkok, we have two hotels to choose. One is out of the city center, which is cheaper, and the other one is inside the city center, but costs much more or a bit.
Yeah.
So we choose the hotel that's a bit more expensive because it's in the city center. Why? Because you have option for transportation. The attractions or the shopping malls or temples are much more accessible. So aside from money, you also save time. So
Yeah.
if you have more time, you have more time to explore. You have
Yeah.
more destinations
Right.
to add into your bucket list.
Okay.
Yeah. People always think that it's all about the money, but time is also a currency.
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
Especially if you're working like 9 to 5 every day and you don't
Yeah.
really get as many like not sick leaves, but like vacation
Like
leaves.
days off. Yeah. Vacation leave.
Vacation
Yeah.
leaves or pay time off, then time is even more important as a currency.
Yeah. So it depends on what do you have more? Like maybe you have more time.
Yes,
Yes.
that's
And
true.
maybe you have more money. So it depends on how
Yes.
you. Okay. So yeah, I totally agree. And a lot of times, what I do on my personal trip is that I like do both, right? At the very beginning of the trip, I might be super budgeted, and maybe like last night of the trip, I might spend a little more or something like that, just to make the experience like rounded and diverse. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. So what kind of questions? I imagine a lot of fans from your channel and from your blog might like send you a lot of questions and ask for advice or suggestion. So what kind of questions do you get the most?
Usually they're asking for recommendations on where to go, but it's funny because like 14 years ago when we started as backpackers, like really budget travelers. We always say that the poor traveler isn't we came up with it not because of the budget, but it is a big part of it. Like it's not just the reason for it, but it is a part of it. And most of our core followers, like who were with us from the very beginning, when they started, they were fresh graduates. They were new to their jobs. But then 14 years later, they're now executives at their own like companies, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes we would get inquiries about cruises, about travel to Iceland, about travel to South America, which is so far from here. And sometimes it also allows us to see like that we're growing with them. That we have come a long way as they have also, which is also why when TikTok came into the picture like a few years ago when we started joining TikTok, it was a breath of fresh air for us because the TikTok market, at least our followers on TikTok, are very young. And most of them are just beginning. They're just starting to discover the joys of travel. So somehow it allowed us to reconnect to our old selves. Like we on TikTok we get questions about domestic travel that we don't get from our Instagram followers anymore.
I see.
Because it's a very different age range. And then, but more than that, it's really about being able to. It's like TikTok has grounded us again and it's so fun to like rediscover the joy of like applying for a passport for the first time, or being or visiting Bangkok, because Bangkok is one of the first places that Filipinos visit.
I see.
Bangkok, Hong Kong, Singapore, and for the longest time we thought like maybe we're over it. Like maybe we should move on to another continent, you know.
Right.
But then TikTok came and we're like, we're revisiting Bangkok.
That's so nice. Oh, thank you, TikTok, to make these guys coming back to Bangkok too. Yeah, but I totally get it because a lot of young people are on TikTok, right? And they experience like through like content creators like yourself. And they kind of want to experience the same way, and we are like role model for them to like, okay, do this and do not do that. And since it could be their very first trip or some of their first trips, of course they have to like, one, they have to take advice, but they have to learn on their own too.
Yes,
and I think the experience come back to you guys as the curator, because that always happen. Like, okay, I take your advice and then this works out really well, but this not so much. And then the story coming back to you guys, and so we can like learn together.
Yes, that's
true.
So what would be some of the new travel trend? Like, what are people these days, like especially young people, do differently when they take a trip?
There's a lot of phones now.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not necessarily like a bad thing. Actually, I remember right now the Gen Z. For the Gen Z, it's not, because when you travel these days, everyone's documenting their trips. Everyone is posting about what they're experiencing, which is a good thing because it's much better now. When it comes to managing expectations. I mean, like years ago, everything was so curated, everything was so filtered that what you see, the pictures you see, don't really resemble places in real life. But on TikTok, since most of it is video, and people can get really real.
Really real. They don't shy away from showing the real stuff happening.
Yes.
Even though it's not that pretty, but this is real. And it captures attention from the viewers even more, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they will tell you like why they feel a certain way about destinations. So it's better when it comes to like managing expectations. Like, you know, the whole expectation versus reality thing. Like TikTok has been very helpful. And because it's TikTok's search feature is also very helpful. Sometimes whenever I would, even us, when we're researching about certain places and we want to see like how it is really, more than looking for blogs, sometimes we would search TikTok.
Sure. Yeah. Because you can see what's actually going on, like in like motion pictures. And then people talk about it. A lot of commenting on the content, which sometimes could be even more entertaining than it's like, wow, it's so much fun reading through these comments. And that's what I do all the time on TikTok. Like, okay, I cannot miss the comment. Or even sometimes when I like watch the video to the certain point, there's got to be a comment saying about this, and then I go through the comments just to find like if people are talking about what I would want to know or would want to talk about. So obviously one thing that people do differently from like, let's say like 5 or 10 years before is that everybody's taping or like filming their trip and they share, right?
Yes. And because there's a lot of documentation now, people are more empowered to travel on their own. So that's another trend that we noticed. Like there's a lot of solo travelers these days. It's not, there were solo travelers before, but I think there are even more now because they see different content creators traveling on their own and they tell you how it is. So somehow it gives you that confidence that maybe I could do it. Maybe I could just jump into it and give it a try. So I think that's one of the trends, right? There's a lot of solo travelers that we meet these days.
So before you guys got together, each of you like were you a solo traveler too? Do you go on a trip by yourself?
No.
Okay. All right.
We were actually. I'm a corporate employee back then.
Okay.
So I had my only. I only known travel domestically. For example, driving to a nearby province to a
I see.
beach.
Okay.
And we really started traveling when we got
Stranded.
stranded. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. When we were actually home buddies before we met each other. So we only started traveling when we were already together.
Yes.
So you could say that we inspired each other to travel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm the kind of person that for the longest time I was really afraid to go out. Even go out of the house. We're both introverted. And part of it is because my very first travel experience was it's not I'm not sure if you'd consider it travel experience, but when I was very young, you see this, so this is a big scar on my arm.
Okay.
When I was very young, I was probably like 4 or 5. I went out of my house on my own for the very first time. I got burnt. Like I
Wow.
fell into a pit with fire, with trash being burnt. So I think that somehow affected me, like thinking like maybe the world outside isn't as
Too
safe.
dangerous.
Yes, it's too dangerous.
Okay.
So I've always been a homebody, and it was only until I met him that we decided, you know what, we're both homebodies. Why don't we try something new?
Wow.
And maybe let's travel together.
That is good. So it's kind of like having each other kind of boost your confidence in going out and be
Yes.
more open to like whatever adventures out there.
Yes. So that, I don't feel stupid alone. We could feel stupid together. If something bad happens, then there's, I'm not
And it
alone
did
in
happen
this.
on your first trip together.
Yes.
Right? But you guys still survive and you guys don't hate each other after that.
Yes.
It's a good thing when bad things happen to people who love each other on a trip, don't you think? Because it kind of can like work magic into our relationship too. Like, okay, bad things happen. Now what? If you guys stick together and go through it together, it could be such a blessing too.
Yes, that's true. We always say that the best test of a relationship is to travel together, regardless of the relationship, whether it's romantic, whether it's just
Friends.
friendship. You could even test your mom if you think
Yeah.
you could travel with your mom.
Yeah, because you know what they say, like it takes a trip for you to really know someone.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You might be like the best besties, right? And then you take a trip together and man, I never had any idea how bad this person is. Yeah, like how intolerant. Yeah, it
that's
happened
true.
too. So the first time you decided to take a trip together, did you have any like fear that, oh man, what if he turned out to be someone who's nasty or something like that? and what's gonna happen then?
I have no I'm not expecting anything, or I have no expectations.
Okay.
I remember when we first traveled, my only concern is what if he doesn't like the resort, or what if
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
the food is bad, or
Okay.
the experience will be bad.
And that was my concern too. It was more about, is he gonna like it? So, because remember, it was, at the time, we didn't have any context. It was our first trip together. So we didn't know how much of a pressure cooker travel was.
Okay.
So we didn't really have, like, we were blind at the time.
I see.
So we didn't have any context.
Okay, but let me ask you this: how long had you been together as a couple before this trip?
A year.
A year.
A year. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
No, because it happened like around October, right?
Okay,
So
get
maybe
your
15 years
March,
ago.
April,
Get
May,
your
June,
facts
July,
checked, guys.
August, September. 8 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not very new
Yeah,
into the
So-
relationship. So you guys know each other pretty well by that point, right?
Yes,
Yes.
And you spend like some longer time together, I guess. So
Yes.
I think it could be like a proper like next step at the moment for you guys to take, right?
Yes, that's right. That's
All
right.
right.
It makes
Yeah. So it could be super revealing of like personalities for people to take a trip together, right?
That's
Yeah.
actually like we had that question before from one of our followers. They asked like they've been together for like only a couple of months. You remember we had an episode about this, and she was asking if they should travel together this early because they've only been together for like I don't remember if it's a month or 2 months.
Okay.
And
What did you say?
I said like maybe you should build a better, stronger foundation first before you travel. But
Okay,
then
okay.
one of our followers also chimed in and they were like, maybe you should do it now so that you won't waste many of your months before. Like know that person as early as you could.
Oh,
Right? So that's
good
a great
advice, actually, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
But
it makes
you know
sense.
what? I also agree with you, but it could go either way.
Yeah.
Yeah. It depends on their decision. Like the earlier the better.
Yeah.
If you know, really get to know a person from like taking a trip together. So, now that I have seen your true color, I decided that we should not be together anymore. It could be that way too.
Yeah, that's true.
Or maybe I like you, let's be together, but we don't need to travel together.
Again.
Okay. Yeah. But could it go on for long? I mean, if,
And how's
if
the honeymoon gonna be,
I
right?
know, like honeymoon at home, like quarantine together. Yeah, but it's a good point because when you love someone, you don't need to like do everything, every single things
Together, yes.
together with them, right?
Yeah.
But I really wonder about like
Yeah.
trips and traveling because if you decided to, what if you get married, right? Get married and okay, even if we are not talking about honeymoon, but at some point in your life as a couple, you might need to take a trip together and what's going to happen then? I don't know.
And then traveling with kids later on.
Oh my
That's a
God.
different ball game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. All in all, I think taking a trip together with someone would really get you to see the real person inside of them. And,
that's true.
and vice versa. So they will see the real you too.
Yeah.
So you have to watch for that. Right. Okay. So you guys are making contents together. You guys are in a relationship. Going back 15 years ago, right? That's where you
15.
guys like starting dating, getting to know each other. Was it a hard decision to decide to like do things together that could potentially become a business? Because you know what they say about like doing business with someone we're super close with,
Yeah.
it could turn ugly.
Yeah.
So do you guys have any concern about that at all?
Because at the time, social media monetization wasn't really a big thing yet. Like,
Okay.
so we were in it just for the heck of it. Like,
I see.
we really just, it was just a hobby for us.
Not a main like
Yes.
income source or business.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think we just got lucky that our hobby started earning us and allowed us to build a career. But at the time, like we weren't really thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like we had our own jobs at the
Okay,
time, so
still?
we're doing it. No, not anymore. So we're
Okay,
full-time
alright.
travelers now. But at the time, we were just doing it on the side.
Uh-huh.
We have some also arguments with regards to the business, but we never take it personal.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
what remains when we talk about the business, it will remain a business. But after that, going back to personal stuff, we
Right.
leave it behind.
Oh, so you guys have to be very good at separating things
Yeah.
Yes.
between like personal life and business.
Yes.
Did you guys have a formal talk about this, or you kind of learn about each other or learn about how things should be along the way?
I think it just happened. We didn't really talk about it. It just, I think, because there were some. We both worked at a corporation. Like we were on a eventually we started working for the same company, but we were on very different teams. Like we only saw each other at the end of the day. But it was a really good company, and it instilled in us like a really strong sense of professionalism. Like to not take things personally whenever something happened. And it's not like we would argue all the time. Like it rarely happened. It like the same way, like I can count in like one finger the number of times that we had an argument.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
so
good.
it's
Yeah.
not like maybe because we can already foresee like how the other person is going to react. This is a good thing about traveling with someone you love. You tend to notice how they would react to certain situations. And
Yeah.
for example, if something happens, I know that he wouldn't like it, so I'm not going to force something like
Right.
this.
And you the same way, or
Yeah, it's the same way, but
what if you really believe or want something to happen so bad, and you kind of know that he would like it? Would you still bring it up?
yes, I will. I will
What?
keep pushing on it because, for example, I'm handling the technical side and
Okay.
the financial side of the business.
Uh-huh.
So he's handling the creative and the
Yeah.
marketing side of things.
Okay.
So whenever I see some potential, for example, after seeing this trend or trend on TikTok,
Yeah.
what if we do this kind of stuff? And then, I don't know.
Okay.
Things like that.
Yeah.
You don't feel like it, like maybe it's not our thing.
I think it boils down to two things. Number one is respect. So, for example, when it comes to search and technicals, like I know it's not my expertise, so I'm not gonna push something that I'm not really that like familiar with. I know it's his turf. Then you make the decision about that. The second element here is giving things a try. It's the acceptance that you don't know everything. So if the other person has an idea, even though it's not his it's not your expertise, then there's really no harm in giving it a try. If it doesn't work, then you're not going to do it again, and you're not going to bring it up again.
Yeah.
But what if it does work, right? Then
Right.
you have learned something that
Yeah.
could benefit the both of you. So yeah, I think it boils down to those two.
Yeah, it's a very healthy way of thinking and working
Yeah.
and living together, right?
Yeah.
So, what would you say is his best quality as a couple and as a travel companion?
Ooh, careful.
His best trait is he's a great planner. Great
Yeah.
planner.
You agree?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, so you're in charge of like where to go, what to do, something
Yes,
like that.
yes,
Okay,
yes, yes.
all right.
And he has a very, in terms of business, creative mind.
Yeah.
Okay. Nodding,
Thank you.
nodding, nodding, agreeing. Okay, good
Yes,
job.
yes.
Okay, and for you, same question, Yash.
I think the best thing about Vince is because I think it's his ability to see the good in everything. Because I can be a little pessimistic sometimes. So somehow it's nice to have someone who could complement that, like being able to, maybe you're looking at it differently, and maybe we should, give it a try. Maybe you should trust this process for example.
Yeah.
So yes, and the other thing is his patience. I can be a little extra, I know that. And it's really hard to find someone
Ooh, nodding so hard.
that could handle, all this extraness.
Yeah.
And yeah, Vince has been very patient. Yeah.
Yeah, patience is virtue, like they said. Yeah, and you need to be like patient to be in relationship. That's for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, one person may be more patient than the other, but we still need both.
Yes,
to
yes.
to be Okay. So what would be the next goal that you guys set and have together?
Right now we are really focused on, because the pandemic really did us in. Like there were a lot of things that were derailed because of the pandemic. For example, we were supposed by now we should have completed all the countries in Europe, but not gonna happen anytime soon. I think it's time to maybe go out there again, guns blazing, and yeah. How about
Right.
yours?
Yeah, how about you?
Now, I would just like to add that after the pandemic, everything is a hard reset. So what we do now is we're going back to the countries that we visited years ago to try to explore again.
And you'll be surprised like how much these cities have changed. Like for example, we were surprised when especially about the prices. Like things are much more expensive
Yeah.
now than before. Like yeah, for example, we were just talking about it. Like this is not how expensive Hong Kong. We imagined Hong Kong
Okay.
because we just returned from a Hong Kong trip and it's
Yeah.
like, oh my god, Hong Kong has been very expensive.
Yeah.
Unlike
But
the
it
last
wasn't
time we were
cheap
here.
before either. But
Yeah, but
it's
it's
getting
not as-
even more
Yes.
expensive.
Yeah, things like that. So
Yeah.
it's been very eye-opening for us traveling
Right.
after the pandemic.
So we're glad that you're coming back to Thailand and revisiting, re-exploring. But the thing is, you're gonna be joining the Pride Parade in Bangkok, right?
Yes.
Ah.
Tomorrow. Okay. This
Okay.
is gonna air another
Yeah,
time.
that's okay. Because we're gonna put like disclaimer. Okay, yeah. So how excited are you
Very excited.
Very excited.
for two introverts to be in a parade? Because
Yes.
I am also an introvert, and I cannot
Really?
imagine myself. I am, but I cannot imagine myself like joining any parade at all.
Yeah.
So must be like exciting and nerve-wracking at the same time for you guys.
Yes.
Yes,
That's true.
especially us. It's our first time to attend Pride.
Yeah. Any Pride
parade.
activity.
Any Pride activity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we would always June is the month where we're always out. It's part of our travel. We have this thing called travel season. Like it usually starts like April, May, June, and then we come back in July and start creating content, and then we travel again in October. So June is usually like we're not in the Philippines when it's June, and of course like all the parade things, the Pride activities happen in June. But for me, it's extra special because my I was not out for the longest time in the Philippines. Like it took me a while to finally be comfortable with myself, with my sexuality, and in fact, the very first gay club that I have visited was in Bangkok, in Silom. And then my very first drag show was also in Bangkok. So it's kind of poetic that my very first Pride March is going to be in Bangkok. So
Okay,
it's
all the
just-
firsts in
Yes,
Bangkok.
yes.
Oh, we're honored.
We are honored, I
Okay.
think, to be invited to join the,
Right.
the parade
Okay.
activity.
And for you, what was your situation?
I've come out to my parents just very recently. So
Like the other day.
like the other day.
What? Really?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I don't want to go into the details,
Okay.
but all my fears were just fears because my mom, I don't know if my mom called me and then I already know many years ago.
Yeah.
And it's just it made me happy and also made me more excited about the Pride celebration here in Bangkok because all my fears were not they remain fears. They're
Yeah.
not valid because they're very accepting.
Yeah.
And it's a great way for me to celebrate it here in
Wow.
Bangkok because I have no more worries.
Yeah.
Nothing. I'm not hiding anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for you guys. I think you guys are fortunate to have a non-negative coming out experience or even like the like social experience that we keep hearing that people are getting, like bullies and discrimination and stuff like that. But in general, what would you say is the situation in the Philippines in terms of like the LGBTQ community?
The Philippines is there's still a lot of work to be done. I think that's the best way to put it. there's a strong LGBTQ presence in the Philippines. And even now, there are some cities that have ordinances that are more welcoming, but still, there's still a long way to go, I think, towards marriage equality. For example, the biggest issue now back home is divorce. Imagine divorce. We're the only country in the world that doesn't have a divorce law yet. So if divorce is still being discussed, then imagine marriage equality, right? It's still
I see. Okay.
it's still a long way down. But I think right now baby steps have been taken, and maybe it's going in the right direction.
Right.
We just need to maybe fight more, I think.
Yeah.
But we're very optimistic about
Yeah.
how things are turning out.
Yeah, that's what we always should be, optimistic, like
Yes.
hopeful that better things will come our way.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true.
So you guys are together, and people see that, and I guess people can tell that you guys are a couple. Have they, like, any of them, like, reach out and I have this problem, and what do you think? Can you help me with my problem, because I kind of experience these problems and stuff like that?
Actually, here's the thing. Like, we never really addressed it on
Okay.
our blog. This is actually the first time
Oh,
that we are like addressing it like head on.
I
Like
see.
some of our followers kind of know, but
If
we
you
never
know, you
really,
know, but-
yes, if you know,
okay.
you know.
Okay.
We've never really confirmed it because there were still like some personal issues that we had to untangle.
I see.
But now that it's namely, him coming out to his parents, but now
Okay.
that it's done,
okay.
it's actually a lot freeing. Like doing this interview alone, I think speaks volumes to about like our situation now, that we're now ready to answer questions about our status as a couple. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's weird a little bit because we've been together for 15 years, but we never really
Yeah.
addressed it. Like
Okay.
we would get questions sometimes like, how are you two related? Are you friends? Are you brothers? But
Okay.
we would like dismiss it, like we wouldn't even answer it. But now it's I see this interview alone as like a very liberating moment for us.
Okay.
Yeah, because this is the first time we are doing
Yeah.
this.
Okay. Even more honored because because this is a good thing, and I understand is a kind of decision that you have to make for yourself.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's
you-
very hard.
Right. And it's no right or wrong for people to come out or not, or to choose to talk about their situation or their status or not. I think is totally their right. But
Yes.
I think one thing that now that you guys are like being transparent and can be super like honest about your situation and stuff like that, I think a lot of people could benefit from this because they would have a role models, like even like two more role models at least, so they can like take a look at and think about their situation, or even like reach out
Yes.
and stuff like that. I think you guys gonna help a lot of people, even intentionally or not.
Yes.
Yeah.
And proving that you could travel with the same person for 15 years and still not
Yes.
kill each other,
Yes,
right?
that's kind of amazing. But well, if for two people to love each other, it's a given. I think it's normal, and we're not talking about like no fights at all. That's impossible, and
Yeah.
there's not even an issue like fighting. So what? Then getting back, like making up, right? Yeah. So that's normal. Wow, it's gonna be a lot of. Well, so this is just like a real start, like a very beginning for you guys.
Yes,
Like in
yes.
some sense, right?
Yeah, it's
Yes.
it's a new era. Well,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, especially me, because it's at my age. Many people might think that at your age, you just come out at your age right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
You're too old for that. But you can never force someone to come out. So it has to be on your own terms,
Yeah.
at your own time, at your own confidence also. So I think age should not be a problem.
Right.
It should genuinely must come from the person that if he wants to share this,
Yeah.
his story, or if he wants to keep it to himself,
Yeah.
let's respect that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You talk about your fears and the feeling of being like fearful all the time of probably not gonna be accepted by like your own folks, right? But I think I'm so happy for you right now, and I'm not gonna say that it's worth it to be so feared all those years, but eventually, right? Like good things happen, and your parents is so okay with you right now, and I think I can see that you can like be truly happy right now, like worry free, and that would mean a lot. The person you're with, yourself, and the community. Like I said, even if you mean to be a role model or not, but I think you are. You guys totally are.
Well, thank you for
Thank
that. Thank you for saying that. Well, we don't like to think like that because sometimes it adds a little bit of pressure.
I know, yeah.
As introverts, like we like to pretend that no one's watching. I know
Yeah.
it's ridiculous saying that because we are on YouTube.
Yeah, please watch
sometimes-
us.
But sometimes it's also we were like for the longest time we were afraid to address it because even when we weren't out we would get comments, negative comments about homophobic comments. We would get it on different channels, and maybe it's our way of saying like we don't care anymore at this point. Like I mean, we're old. your words are not gonna hurt us anymore. I think at this point.
It's just the reflection of the one who's commenting on that.
Yeah.
It's more of it speaks more about you than us.
Yes.
Yeah, of course. So since our show is called Comedy, and in Thai that would mean that's a good word. So we're big on words. We're obsessed with words, right? So I would want to know if you guys have your favorite word or words.
Words.
Yeah, in English and maybe in Tagalog too.
Okay.
Go ahead.
My favorite word in Tagalog is alpas.
Alpas.
Alpas means to break free.
Break free.
Break free. So it's like for me I see this as a core memory for us because it's a start of something new for both of us. This is our first outing, so to speak, and I really feel like I'm breaking free. This is a moment to break free. And then Ariana Grande sings "Break Free," and then so that's my word. That's the first word that's been playing in my head right now. It's been in my head since like the time we arrived here in Bangkok. So it's alpas.
Yeah,
Yes.
alpas.
Yes, alpas.
Wow. Okay.
How about you?
How about you, Vince?
My Filipino word is lugod.
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 Lugod. Okay.
Which means it's a Kapampangan language. So it's another language in the Philippines.
I see.
Because the most common language we know is Tagalog, which
Right.
is why the wide commonly used
okay.
language in the Philippines.
Yeah.
But in Kapampangan, lugod means love.
Ah.
It's a simple word as love. So just like that word, it says a lot of, you can say it in many words or express it in many ways. But the core meaning of it is love is love. So regardless of the language.
All right. So now I'm gonna make you guys do something embarrassing, like what we always see on like talk shows, like say something to each other.
What? What are we gonna say?
Yeah, because I figure you guys must have said like all the things in the
Yes,
world to each other like for the past 15 years. But
Yes.
anything else that you haven't said or you want to like say it again to him right
I
now?
think the past few weeks have been a very difficult journey for Vince, for you, because I had the same trepidation like when I was coming out to my family. So I know how hard the past week has been for him, but I know that of course he was doing it. Of course you're doing it for yourself, but I know that a big part of why you finally did it was me. So I want to thank you.
Oh. I'm screaming inside
Yes.
right now.
Thank you for the bravery, for the courage to finally do it. Like after 38 years of living. Yeah.
You just outed my age.
Yeah, you could out the sexuality, but
Yeah,
not
you
the age.
Totally dated him. Okay.
Yeah.
And what would you like to say to this guy?
Thank you for having the patience of having the patience to wait for me to finally admit it to my loved ones about me, about myself, about us. I know it's been what do you call this one? I know it's been hard for you also for the past years. Now, what keep on asking when are going what are you going to do? When will you do they know already? And there's a point that you stop asking and you told me that it's okay to do things on your terms. I'm here for you. I'm just here for you, and I want to thank you for that, for giving me the time and most of all patience.
Why are you doing this to us?
And this is exactly why. I think it's worth it. It might be like super cheesy or something, but it's not cheesy at all from my perspective. It's just like two persons who love each other so much, like and standing side by side throughout these years, and they're breaking free today.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming to our show, and
Thank
I wish
you.
you guys all the best and enjoy the parade.
Yes.
Yay.
Are you gonna be there?
No, I don't think so. No.
Okay, we're gonna
No,
cut that out.
just have fun for me too. All right. Okay. All right. So thank you.
Thank you for
so
having
much.
us.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you for having us and letting us share our story.
Yes.
Of course.